Today we're doing section 2.7 day 1 and we're going to be discussing polynomial inequalities. So as far as the procedure, step 1 is to get all your terms on one side of your inequality. Step 2, solve for x as if, treating it as if it was equal to 0. So we're just going to temporarily pretend that the inequality is an equal sign. Number 3, put your zeros on the number line. Remember, zeros means answers. And we're going to test our regions that we've created by putting the numbers on the number line. And determine which regions are true. Alright, so let's go ahead and do a practice problem. So notice I have 2x squared plus x is greater than 15. So step 1, I need to get all the terms on one side, so I'm going to subtract this 15 over to both sides. So now the equation says 2x squared plus x minus 15 is greater than 0. Obviously, we would always test to see if it's factorable, so a times c is a negative 30. So my combination that I'm going to use is a 6 and a negative 5. So I'll have 2x squared plus 6x minus 5x minus 15. Again, those of you who do the box method, go ahead and put these 4 terms inside the box and you're going to be finding the outside. My groupers, you group the first 2 and you group the last 2, and now we figure out what we can take out. I can take out a 2x and I'm left with an x plus 3. Over here I can take out a negative 5 and I'm left with an x plus 3. So I get 2x minus 5 and an x plus 3. And my boxers, you should have got the same thing. And then this is where, like, the whole step 2, where solve for x, pretend it's equal to 0. So the 2 answers I get, and this is when it's equal to 0, is 5 over 2 and a negative 3. So we're going to go ahead and draw our number line. So my zeros that are going to go on my number line are going to be negative 3. So let's just put a 0 so we know where 0 is. So I have 1, 2, 3, negative 3. And because it is just a greater than, it's just going to be an open dot. And then 5 over 2 is 2.5, so 1, 2, 3. 2.5 would be halfway in between. So notice by doing this, I've kind of created 3 regions to check. So I have the region that's to the left of negative 3, between negative 3 and 2.5, and then to the right of 2.5. So the numbers that we're going to test, I would test 0 for the middle region, 3 for the right-hand region, and let's say negative 4 for the left-hand region. So the test part of it, and I'm just going to erase some of this so I have room over here. So the test part of things is you just have to plug it in and you got to determine if the statement is true or not. So when I test a negative 4, I have 2 times negative 4 squared plus a negative 4 minus 15. And you're welcome to do that in the calculator. You can type it in all at once. Negative 4 squared is 16 times 2 is 32. Then I'll have minus 19. And at this point, I don't really need to go any further. I know that this is going to be a positive answer. Regardless of what it's going to be, it's positive, and a positive number is greater than 0. So I know that this one is a true statement. So we're going to shade to the left, which indicates that if I picked any value to the left of negative 3, it would be true. Next, we'll test 0. So I have 2 times a 0 squared plus 0 minus 15. So 0 squared is 0 times 2 is 0 plus 0 minus 15, and this is going to be a negative number, so this is going to be false. And lastly, we have to test a 3. So just for sake of showing you, let's test 3 in the original equation rather than the one with the 0. So if I plug in a 3 into the original equation, I have plus 3, but now we're comparing it to 15 rather than 0. So you can use either one of those equations. Just make sure you kind of think about it, which value you're comparing it to, whether it be 0 or the original. 3 squared is 9 times 2 is 18 plus 3. And I already know, I don't need to go any further, I know 18 plus 3 is going to be larger than 15, so I know that this is a, I don't know why I wrote false, I know that will be a true statement. So anything bigger than 2.5 will be true. So last thing that I expect you to do is write your answer in interval notation, since it's something we learned how to do. So my solution is coming from negative infinity to negative 3. I'm going to use a parenthesis because it's an open dot. Union 2.5 to infinity. And again, parentheses on both of those because it's open dots. Alright, so last example. Get it equal to 0, so we're going to subtract all the terms over. So minus 4x minus 4 less than or equal to 0. We're going to go ahead and group. If you box, go ahead and box. They go on the outside. So I'm taking out an x squared. I'm left with x plus 1. Take out a negative 4. I'm left with x plus 1. So this factors to be x squared minus 4 and x plus 1. When I set them both equal to 0, over here I'm going to get a plus or minus 2, because I set it equal, add 4 square root, and a negative 1. And we knew we needed 3 answers because it's to the third power. So on our number line, we now have several regions that we need to check. So I'm just going to put a bunch of tick marks on here. So we have, let's call this one 0. I have negative 1 and negative 2. So these are closed dots this time. And positive 2. So as far as numbers that we're going to test negative 3, 0, 3, and negative 1.5. Alright, so to test to the left of negative 2, you could do any value bigger. I just picked negative 4, so I'm going to do negative 4 cubed plus a negative 4 squared minus negative 4 times negative 4 minus 4. So a negative 4 cubed, so if you type this all in the calculator, so for the sake of time to keep this moving, you get negative 36 is less than or equal to 0, which is true. So I know everything over here is true. In between negative 2 and a negative 1, we'll test a negative 1.5. So a negative 1.5 cubed plus negative 1.5 squared minus 4 times negative 1.5 minus 4. You're going to get a decimal. It's going to be a positive decimal. So this statement is false. Next region we'll test is 0. So I have 0 cubed plus 0 squared minus 4 times 0 minus 4. So I get negative 4 is less than or equal to 0, which is true. So that means any number between negative 1 to negative 2 would also be true. And then lastly, we'll test 3 for the right-hand side. So I have 3 cubed plus a 3 squared minus 4 times 3 minus 4. And that works out to being 20, which is false. So the way we would write our final answer, it's coming from negative infinity to negative 2 with a bracket because it's a closed dot, union negative 1 to a positive 2. Alright, that's all for today.